I had Beyond the Black Box. Flight 800 crashed over the ocean. It consisted of mostly teens going on a Paris trip and young couples, all of which died. Examiners tried to have a superficial attachment, but it was hard with this case. This is the remains of the plane. Most of the bodies on the flight were intact. The investigators split the plane into sections and found where each person sat. The sections were color-coded. Green meant intact, yellow meant crushed head and one lost extremity, blue may or may not have a crushed head and two lost extremities, and red is 3 or more lost extremities. Debunking. Spilled jet fuel would burn floating bodies on their backs, which is where floating victims were burned. Many thought a missile went through the plane, but the passengers would have been burned on their front or side. The actual cause of death. Plane's engines are still working, propelling plane at 300 miles per hour. Malfunction made plane fall apart at that rate, tearing plane apart, including the seat belts, in 5 to 6 seconds. The mechanism of death. Falling humans stop when they hit the water, but their organs continue to move until they hit the body cavity, rupturing aorta. Fractured ribs are sharp and sliced organs. 99% had fractured ribs, 88% had lacerated lungs, and 73% had injured aortas. Passengers could not have done much differently to survive. A man fell 7 miles from a plane onto a ground and survived. It all depends on how you land and if you're lucky. If they landed feet first, their chances of survival might have increased. Comet airliners. 2 planes dropped into the ocean. They looked at victims to determine what happened. They catapulted guinea pigs 2.5 feet into the air before hitting the water. Their lungs looked similar to the lungs of the passengers. Passengers in front of the plane were naked when found because their clothes were blown off. Passengers in the back of the plane were still clothed. This is one of the first cases that proved this theory. Most plane crashes don't crash from 30,000 feet high. They usually crash on takeoff or landing. 80 to 85% crashes are survivable. A fire is #1 killer in crashes, so sit by the exit, hold breath, and duck below the fire. There are many improvements that can be made to planes, but they are not taken because of the cost. Examples: shoulder straps, more emergency exits, which would reduce the number of seats, and sprinkler systems. Each person is worth $2.7 million based on the economic value of death and the effect on society.